10-ish seconds. Hey, gang, you got to give it up for Parks Casino. I mean, they get such diverse entertainment. Just announced Dustin Lynch, Clay Walker, Cameron Marlowe, Dylan Scott, Marshall Tucker Band. Summer now approaching, Memorial Day weekend upon us. All roads lead to Parks Casino, the #1 casino in Pennsylvania. Parks Casino, this is how you win. 3,200 state-of-the-art slot machines, 115 live table games, beautiful poker room, collection of incredible award-winning restaurants. Whatever your food taste might be, they have it. Headliners in the Excite Center. And then, JB Smoove on September 20. I gotta go for that. Comedians from New York every other Wednesday night. Joe Conklin does a great job. I could go on and on and on. Bottom line is, have some fun at Parks. You got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Enjoy Parks Casino all summer long, including this weekend. 1-800-GAMBLER, got to be 21, gambling problem. All right, let's do some headlines from the Wednesday edition of the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. Yesterday, I was thrilled with this. 24,377 votes cast on a poll question that did not include either Trump or Biden, but instead, following up the conversation that I had with Dr. Melissa Carney, an economist who studies demographics from the University of Maryland. If you missed that segment, listen to the podcast because it was really well done. Sometime soon, the global fertility rate will drop below the point needed to keep population constant. Is that good news or bad news? Let's call it 2/3. 65.33% said it's good news. I guess believing that there'll be fewer carbon emissions, less stress on the planet, but not perhaps accounting for the fact that the societal safety net is going to need to be funded. Who's going to pay for Medicare? Who's going to pay for Social Security? Who's going to fill all the jobs? What about the missing joy of a lot of kids? But that's the way that the vote turned out on that. I would say, while you're thinking about impact TC on the planet, and we had callers, including one very special caller, but we had callers, female callers, who said, hey, the world's a complicated place.
Yeah, they sure did.
And for that and other reasons, I'm not bringing a child into this world.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, my take on these things is always like, you do you. If you don't,
right.
It is enough to simply say, I don't want to have a child. That's the best reason not to have a child. Full stop. That's great.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by, as you said, a very special caller who has now written for Smerconish.com. Funny, she can write
Alice
for Smerconish.com because Alice Herrick is the editor at Smerconish.com and is
indeed
a valued and beloved team member. And she wrote very thoughtful reasons, sort of going through so many different angles in her thinking about why she is childless by choice and why she thinks she will remain so, with the door open that she knows, maybe something could change down the road. She's young. But I just thought it was a very thoughtful and well-presented essay.
So Alice, writing today for Smerconish.com under the headline, Child-Free by Choice, A Young Woman's Rationale, begins this way. 2 days ago, Michael spoke to University of Maryland professor Dr. Melissa Carney about new research showing a decline in global birth rates, a trend many find alarming. And then she goes on to explain about the data of the fertility rates. As listeners called the show to weigh in, Michael expressed a desire to hear a younger woman's perspective, so I emailed him the list of reasons I keep in my notes app for why I personally choose not to have children. I hadn't planned to share this publicly until he replied, asking me to call in. This list was not intended as a persuasive argument, but a personal reflection to help me understand my decision, balancing emotional and logistical factors. I am not anti-motherhood. I fully support and celebrate my friends who have started families and the immense joy it brings them, and I don't dislike kids. But I've always known to a certain extent that I would prefer to avoid having my own. This wasn't a viral trend that I followed. However, online discussions, particularly on TikTok, have provided a sense of community and validation for my choice. She explains that she was born in 1996 and goes on to lay out all of her thinking. Read read Alice's piece. Alice, thank you for writing this. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to intrude on some of the personal reasons that you cited when you sent me a note, but I love the fact that you're having this conversation.
Yeah, it's very raw. It's very vulnerable. It's very real. And I think there are women out there of all different ages that share a lot of her views. So yeah, take a look at that. It's very
enumerated points.
Right.
So when she showed me, in real time when I was on air, the note that became this column, I'm like, Alice, you didn't just crank this out for me, did you? She's like, no, I've been focusing my thought process. Okay, today's poll question at Smerconish.com, really a great one. We talked about it earlier. If Biden were to step aside, Trump would surely lose. Do you agree or disagree with that premise? Jeremy Mayer is a college professor who is at George Mason. He's an associate professor in the Schar, I think it's pronounced, Schar School of Policy and Government at George Mason, where he directs the PhD program. Yeah, I mean, he maintains in the USA Today essay that if Biden were to step aside, it surely wouldn't be Kamala Harris, because Biden delegates at the convention in Chicago would recognize the need to win. I'm not so sure about that, but that's what makes this a great poll question. If Biden were to step aside, Trump would surely lose, meaning Biden's the only guy that Trump could beat. Go vote on that at Smerconish.com and read Jeremy's piece if you missed it. TC, what else?
All right. So there is obviously a lot going on. We have the cartoon for today, which is a particularly
Rob Rodgers.
Right. A particularly good one. Rob Rodgers cartoon. And I cannot help as I'm looking at these thinking about, oh my gosh, like this is going to be flipping through that coffee table book someday. So check out that. While you're online, check out Michael's social media, especially Instagram, and you will see a picture taken last night. You were on set with Abby Phillips. Tell us about that.
So, by the way, that's a great picture.
It's a fantastic picture. It's actually purpley hued when I saw it, and maybe it's supposed to be blue, but it struck me that was a very, I didn't know if they lit it like that for you. What was going on there?
No, that is her set, and I think it's the same set where I recorded the book club special that aired at the holidays last year. At least when I walked in, totally done differently, but I think it's the same studio. So I enjoyed being on set with her. It was really funny, TC, because when I came into the building and went into makeup, it's like, and I say this affectionately because I am one, don't misunderstand me, but it was like a rogues gallery of all of the lawyer/legal commentators who are part of CNN's team.
Stop it. You were in heaven.
For the Trump trial.
This was great for you.
So Arthur Aidala
Come on.
was like the first guy that I bumped into wearing a beautiful fedora.
As well he should. He knows how to keep that head warm.
He can pull it off. So we had a really funny conversation, and he was going to do Caitlin Collins' program, and then coming down the hall, here's Ellie Honig. Okay, here's Ellie. So the three of us had a very funny moment. They went to do their thing. I went and pre-recorded with Abby because you know me, I've got to get up at 4:30.
Right.
So it was just very funny. There's a lot of energy in the building because of this Trump trial and everybody wanting to share notes and what do you think? And of course, last night, the charge conference, can you believe? And I got into this with Abby last night about the fact that here we are without, and she correctly pointed out, well, New York law doesn't require a clear articulation of that which Trump is being charged with.
Michael, you and I went back and forth. You and I went back and forth this morning. Like, is there somewhere that is laid out a clear articulation of what the charges are going to be and what that jury instruction is going to look like? And there's not. There's just, you can get close. There are pieces, but that is what it is to be determined. And I find that as fascinating as you do. But I might not have known had I not listened to you talk about it.
Can I also sort of toot the horn of, I'm willing to be critical of CNN when I think the circumstances warrant.
For sure.
And I want to say that I think that CNN's coverage of the Trump trial has really been great.
Yeah.
I think it has really been great. I like the Mark Thompson inspired sort of, real-time texting of what's going on in the courtroom. They're doing the best they can without having cameras in the courtroom. Right. And I think you're getting, this is most important, I think you're getting all sides represented. Billy Brennan is doing a hell of a job. Yeah. And Ellie said to me last night, he said, I'm really enjoying your buddy Brennan. I think that Brennan has been a good addition. I've seen less of Michael Vanderveen, but I think he's great. I think that Ellie is Ellie. He's terrific. Yeah. I think Arthur Aidala is great. I think that Laura Coates, from here on POTUS, is terrific. Yeah. These are real lawyers who know their stuff. Yeah. And listen, Abby Phillip asked me last night, are people into this?
Oh, that's
I said
great question.
I said, Abby, the people that listen to my radio show are into this. The people who are in my orbit are totally into this. I didn't say, but I thought later. It's like OJ-like for some of us. Yeah. The way that we're paying such close attention. The rest of the country, I don't know. We're going to find out soon enough. But my bottom line is that I think it's baked in, and it hardly matters what the outcome of this is going to be.
It's just a good get out the vote. It's a get out the vote effort for President Trump. That is my take on this.
He's played it. He's
perfectly.
Played his hand perfectly from a political standpoint, not necessarily from a legal standpoint, but from a political standpoint. Let me do more headlines now from the Wednesday edition of the newsletter. Aaron Rodgers. I think the headline that I put on it in the newsletter this morning was VP or QB. Do we have any audio of this, TC? And can you help me set it up?
Yeah. So he was asked about whether he was going to retire, about whether he was asked to be RFK's vice president, and wouldn't that mean that he would have to retire? So this is what he said. Here's just a 20-second clip.
Seriously, did things get up with RFK about being the running mate? Obviously, we haven't gotten a chance to talk to you since that came out in March.
Yeah, I love Bobby. We had a couple of really nice conversations, but there were really two options. It was retire and be his VP, or keep playing. And I want to keep playing.
So there you go. I guess he was
asked.
Just crazy. He was asked, and instead it's Nicole Shanahan, who he runs into occasionally, meaning RFK runs into her occasionally. Wasn't that the headline from someone yesterday?
Yeah. He happened to bump into her.
There you go. There it is.
They're like passing in an airport or something.
Oh, hey.
I hope one of our cartoon contingent. I do not tell them what to draw. That was like part of the deal when I brought them in. Like, I'll stay out of your way. Just give me good content. Hopefully it's going to be balanced, be an equal opportunity. I hope somebody draws a cartoon about Aaron Rodgers having to weigh being Bobby's VP or being the New York Jets QB. TC, what else caught your eye from today's newsletter?
Okay, so I had to give you a nod. This obviously has been very interesting, and we've been following this all along. A scoop from Axios Philly that the Frank Rizzo statue may return to supporters. What do you know about this? Here's the lead. The people who paid for the Frank L. Rizzo sculpture removed from Center City in 2020 say they're close to having it returned, pending settlement of a long-running lawsuit.
So, read the story, obviously, flagged it for the newsletter. I worked for Frank Rizzo. I had a very close relationship with Frank Rizzo in the midst of a lot of protests over a whole variety of different factors. His was one of the statues that came down. What interested me was that they're not saying they're going to return it to its perch, which is outside the municipal services building.
No,
rather,
that's not
they're going to return it to supporters.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's going to be like a truck that shows up in my front yard and just unloads it. Like, what do they mean? Where are they putting it?
Wait,
where are they putting it?
Is it going to be in a private home? Wouldn't that be something?
It's big.
Yeah.
It's really big.
I know.
But here's something that occurred to me. So Frank Rizzo was born, on the block, which is the intersection of Rosewood and Rittner in South Philadelphia. And he used to conclude every election night on a flatbed truck in the old neighborhood.
Come on.
I have fond memories of being on that flatbed truck. But the neighborhood's changed. It's not as if it's the Italian neighborhood in South Philly where he was born and raised. The Italians have all moved to South Jersey and Delaware County. That's the fact. So I don't know that you can just go back to the old neighborhood and put it up there. It just raises a really interesting question and the same thing with like a caller brought up the Kate Smith statue that was taken down in front of the Spectrum.
Yes.
Wherever Kate Smith statue ended up, I guess is where Rizzo statue is going to end up. But I'm not caught up in the take it down mentality. I think we've gone too far. What else, TC?
Hang on. I'm just buying something. So just saying.
I love the story. Go
ahead.
While
I click. By the way, the Wall Street Journal is just killing it with these sort of long form, really interesting, slightly evergreen, but of the moment pieces. This one.
Wait till you see tomorrow.
Wait
till you see tomorrow. Already got one.
You already got one? We're spending billions on this work from home indulgence. And the idea is that when you're home and the boss or anybody else isn't looking over your shoulder, in between or maybe in the midst of Zoom meetings, you're buying things online. Here's the lead.
Right.
Click, scroll, add to cart. Now toggle back to that Zoom meeting. On our remote days, it turns out we shop while we work. Researchers say it's driven billions in online sales. There we all are, browsing everything from toothpaste to concert tickets while nodding along on a video call, keying in credit card info in between dashing off emails to the boss.
I know that I bought ELO concert tickets while I was on the air. That's my confession.
I think we discussed it while we were on the air.
I recently bought tickets for Jeff Lynne and ELO in September. And by the way, I paid too much. No scalper involved. I bought them directly. They were just expensive. And I don't even know if I can use them.
Oh,
I don't even know if I can use them.
Wait, is that because you didn't check your calendar because you were on the air and bought them too fast?
What happened was I bought them when I was open, then the Mingle Project Asheville, North Carolina theater opened, and I have a conflict related to that. I didn't know that the theater was going to open and allow me to come on the day that we had requested. It's a long story. Suffice it to say, I'm guilty as charged of doing some of that purchasing as well. I must point this out. There's a story today in the newsletter from CBS News. It's all about the FAA under new pressure to examine the size, safety, the concerns pertaining to airline seats. There is not a current minimum standard for economy seats on airplanes. As we have gotten bigger, the seats have gotten smaller. Economy airplane seats can be as close together as 28 inches on some airplanes and barely more than 16 inches wide in some configurations. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You see people who are struggling to come down the aisle. It's not fair to them. It shames them. And the airlines have really got to get it together. And I'm racing now because of a time constraint. But I also love, maybe we'll circle back to this tomorrow, TC. Will you put on the list the best places to live in the USA? I'll cut to the chase and I'll tell you what is number one. What is number one is Naples, Florida, a town that I know a fair amount about. So I may or may not have been there last week.
There you go.
So Naples, Florida, number one. But I think you'll be surprised by what else makes the what else makes the cut. So anyway, thank you, gang, for being tuned in. I really appreciate it. Go vote at Smerconish.com.